This episode of Top to Bottom is sponsored by Noted Analytics. Are you tired of losing sales opportunities to the status quo? Not seeing meaningful information in CRM to help close deals? Empower your team with Noted Analytics, the first guided selling for CRM platform that uses sales methodologies like gap selling, Medic, and others to revolutionize the way revenue teams capture, evaluate, and measure sales process effectiveness. Start increasing win rates, shortening sales cycles, and growing average sales prices today. Check it out at notedanalytics.com.
And we're live.
Keenan, that espresso cup looks ridiculous in your hand.
Why did it look ridiculous, Becc?
Your big man paws look so tiny.
Maybe I should meet Donald Trump.
Got to make sure to have a firm handshake when we get it.
Firm handshake. That's what closes a deal and builds credibility. Firm handshake.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Firm handshake and everything else takes care of itself. Welcome, everybody. You are here at Sales Top to Bottom. Glad you can make it. I'm your host, Keenan Becc.
What's up?
You've been in Paris for it's a long time now.
18 months.
What's been your favorite part?
Oh, that's a great question.
Just saying.
That's a great question. I feel relieved to be here every single day.
I really didn't answer the question, but okay, I'll roll with it.
No, that's the punchline. My favorite part. Okay. I'll give you a small favorite part. This is probably not my favorite part, but it's the only thing that comes to mind. There are book dealers on the Sen. So like instead of like touristy stuff, they have books, you know.
I've seen them. Yeah.
Stacks and stacks and stacks of books. They love reading, and older books, newer books. And there's this one man that I see every single day when I'm running. And several times I'll stop and I'll buy a book, a different book. And now he's starting to look at me like he's my drug dealer. Like he's like,
Let me just slip it in.
he's not.
There you go. There you have it.
I got the goods, you know, I got new stuff. And I'm like, keep it in the back.
I got the goods.
And I'm going to tell a small one. There is a woman that I've seen 3 times now, and I have the video for proof, that is driving down the road on a scooter in a dress with a hat on. And in one hand, she is a huge bird that is on the handlebars that she is putting her hand over its talons to keep it on the handlebars. And the bird's just doing this to keep up so he doesn't accidentally fly away. So she's driving down the road.
You need to take a picture of that and put that shit on Instagram.
I have a video of it because I caught her the second and third time. I was like, did that just happen the first time? But she is literally, and I'm like, how did she find out that works? Like, and the bird just does this with his wings so he doesn't accidentally fly away. And she holds the bird with one thing and guides the scooter with another with a hat on, which I'd be like, doesn't that blow away?
Send it to me. I'm going to Instagram that shit.
I will. But the second time she knew that I was taking a picture. And so I took a video, but in the picture I took before it, she is dead on staring at me. And her look looks like eat shit and die. Like
even better. Send me that one.
Even better.
Even better.
Okay, well, with that, we are on to the first segment of this podcast, which is
Email Teardown.
This is the segment where Keenan and Becc tear down emails and messages that were sent over to them. Now on to the first email. This one says, "Hey Keenan, I just finished reading your book and absolutely loved it. As a token of my appreciation, I would love to offer you something completely free.
You can stop the email now and we could just tear that down. You're already bad.
Well,
I'm not even going to look, but I'm going to guess it's a free trial or a free consultation or a free demo or a free look at the thing that he wants you to buy.
100%, 100%. This person says, I work at a book publishing company where we also offer podcast booking services. I can help schedule you as a guest on 5 relevant podcasts to promote your book, brand, and business completely free of charge, worth $5,000. There are no catches or commitments. All I ask is that if you are happy with the podcast booking service, you record a short video testimonial reviewing your experience. If for any reason you aren't satisfied, no worries at all. You don't need to record anything. Open the chat, Jana from Authors on Mission. Okay, Keenan, what are your thoughts on this one?
First off, I don't believe they bought my book. Nor do I believe they read it. Because had they read it and bought it, they would have said, hey, I'm going to try your approach on you. That would have been the smart move. Hey, I read your book. This is my job. So I'm going to try your approach on you. Tell me how I do. They should have taken a shot, but they didn't. That's my 2 cents. Secondly, I don't need your reward. Like, no one, as a special thanks for your book. Like, what is that about? I didn't send it to them personally. I don't know who they are. And so try to transition it to somehow like they feel obligated to give me something, but they're not giving me anything. And by the way, it's the last piece I want to talk about. They're not giving me anything because when they said absolutely free, it wasn't free. Was it? What was the cost?
The video testimonial.
Bam! Man is a good student. It is not free. It may not cost me cash, but it is not free. That is an exchange. Go to Basic Law 101, right? It's an exchange for cost of goods I will give. So that's a contract. If I accept that's a contract, right? I will give you these 5 podcasts. In return, you will give me these recording videos saying I'm great. That's a cost. That's a lot of work. I'm not interested. Number 1. And number 3, I said 1 to 3, so I did that. And then it goes to Becc. If she really paid attention, did a research on me, and I'm going to sound like the biggest douchebag in the world, but if I want to be on a podcast, all I have to do is go to LinkedIn and say,
I want to be on a podcast.
If you got a podcast, you want me on it, I'll take the first 5 that get to me. I promise you I will be on a podcast. Now, are there certain big high level podcasts that I've never really thought about it, but I might want to be on? That might be true. I never thought about. And if she came to me and said, I can get you on, I don't know, some of the bigger name podcasts with millions of followers, you might get my interest because I don't know and I haven't tried. But no, I don't need access to average everyday podcast. I can be I turn them down all the time. So there you go. Becc?
Everything that Keenan said, there are no catches or commitments. That's what she says. There are no catches or commitments, and then finishes with the commitment.
Yeah.
If she had read your book or researched you at all, then she talked about podcasts. That would be a good time to tie in the fact that you have a podcast already. So why would you want to go on other ones necessarily unless you had a problem that you aren't solving now, that you need to now? I'm assuming, hypothetically, what problem they would solve for people is book purchases. She didn't mention how many people have purchased your book, which is actually an outlandishly high amount for someone who wasn't forced money upon them and who is published. Front to end, this is on a, well, I'm going to close with this. It says under a name, I'm just going to shout them out, that it says Authors on a Mission is the title of their company. I'm like, a mission to do what? Mission to close more deals, mission to
sell more books. I'm sure sell more books.
It's so bereft of a problem for you of like, how does that hook back to a metric that you actually care about? Could be revenue, could be book sales, could be any of that, but she is completely bereft of any of that information.
100%.
What?
Well, I had prepped a really thought-provoking great email for what it's worth.
Well, that's how we have next week and the week after, where they keep on coming.
We have time for you.
Oh my gosh. Put hers first now, please. Just put hers first, okay? I have learned that I'm dealing with a prima donna. So I want to make sure that the prima donna is taken care of. That's what I want to do in my life.
I'm really subtle one, though.
No, there's nothing subtle about your prima donna is at all. But as we are. Next up. Next.
All right. And with that, we are on to the second segment of this podcast. which is
Sales mythology.
this is the segment where Becc and Keenan demystify common myths in the sales industry. And the first myth of today is sales is an accountability culture. Keenan, why don't you start us off with this one?
It's supposed to be, but it's not. It's supposed to be, but it's not. And look, nothing is 100%. Okay, that's another thing. Like, I think we all fall into this binary trap. So I want to be clear. Okay, yes, I am sure there are organizations out there right now that are very accountability focused, and they manage their accountability quite well, and they manage people properly in an accountability type environment. Accountability environment doesn't mean boiler room. You missed your number, get the fuck out, right? Like, pack your bag. We're not talking, Glenn Ross, but we are talking about holding people accountable, tracking the appropriate metrics. And if people are unable to do what you ask them to do in their performance perspective or activity perspective, there are consequences, and eventually they're moved out or moved up, right? So all I'll say is this. I am blown away. So here at Node Analytics, we have, at Node Analytics, not here, but at Node Analytics, we offer one of the most profound deal management software applications out there. We show this to people, and they're like, holy shit, this changes the game. Like, people can't hide anymore. I'm like, exactly. And they say, we love this. And then what they say, but we're not sure we could get our team to do it. And I'm like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't get you? Well, I'm not sure we could get our managers to review this regularly. What the fuck else are your managers doing? Their number one job should be evaluating and managing deals in the pipeline and making sure deals move through and providing the support and cover that things get closed. And you, what do you mean you don't have the accountability culture or the leadership to make sure it gets done? But we're not sure we could get salespeople to put it into Salesforce. The way Node Analytics work, we believe very strongly that in the entire world, there is nothing that removes the friction better or faster than Node Analytics. Until AI is perfect, and it is not even close, nothing gets stuff into the CRM faster than Node Analytics. And they still tell us, wow, this is good. Makes it much, much easier, but I'm still not sure I can get my sales team to do it. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why don't you just abdicate all leadership right now? What kind of culture are you in where you actually acquiesce and give in to the fact that you can't get your people to do their job because they perceive it as too cumbersome and you don't have the leadership skills to make it happen? Mm-hmm. So no, we have moved so far away in many cases, from an accountability culture that I don't know what to do with myself. I'm beyond flabbergasted.
All right, what about you, Becc? What are your thoughts on this one?
We got a lot of claps on that one. Thank you, people. Green claps are going choo, 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 choo.
I don't know if it's an accountability problem with sales in specific, but I certainly see it extremely prevalent everywhere. And I think the biggest shining example to me in the sales context is when reps put in this is going to be a small ad hoc one, but when they put in the Slack channel, this deal went dark on me. That is the most blatant show of zero accountability to me, because they're like, oh, it's the prospect's fault for going dark on me. And they don't think in their brain, they don't own up and just, sorry for the language, but it's Keenan's channel. So they don't sack up and say, I did something that caused them to go dark.
Or I didn't do something.
Right. I didn't do something. I did something. I didn't discover something. Like, something happened and I'm going to take the ownership of this, instead of saying this deal just went dark on me. They didn't respond back. Marketing didn't send me enough leads. Marketing didn't send me good enough leads. SDRs didn't outbound for me enough. And I see it rampant in sales culture. Absolutely rampant. So the biggest encouragement I could give to people is, if you're going to try to control one of two things, the rest of the world or yourself, the most effective thing and the fastest thing that you can control is yourself out of those two. You can't control marketing. You can't control SDRs. You can't control product market fit or whatever bullshit you're going to blame it on. Oh, I didn't have as good of a territory. They sent me these BS leads, but the buyer intent was too low. Oh, they didn't have a real need. They didn't have real authority. It's like, dude, Brendan, just sack up and focus on yourself. It's the hardest place to focus, but it's the only thing that you control And it's the most effective place to focus. So instead of saying they went dark on me, like start analyzing your best guess as to why. So like the main cathexis of how I put together like quote unquote like personalization at scale was because I had read every single methodology book under the sun, and none of them actually had practical application or emails or like the how. So I'm like, I have to get my team to quota. So I cut up all those methodologies, fed them into about 20%, and then just built the rest out because I had to get my team to quota. Was that fun? No. Was it a great experience? Not in the moment, but it gave me the results that I needed, and it built something long-term for me. So I'm just like, I think it's a world problem. I think we're just in the day and age where people want to be like, a great example is marketing. They say they want to be at the table. Why aren't we at the table? Why are we at the table? And then you're like, okay, well, the table is the table of revenue. So are you willing to be tied? No, oh, well, it's all about brand, and that's not how it works. And we shouldn't be directly tied to leads, or the close rate's out of our control. I'm like, dude, whoever takes the most accountability to the outcome is the one who's going to be the one with the most responsibility, number one. And number two, that's going to be the most successful person long-term. So I'm just like, look at yourself in every situation and figure out what did you have to do about it negatively. Be as objective as you can and change that if you want to. And if not, that's fine. But just be like, I'm going to be a piece of shit and I'm not going to do anything about this situation. I'm going to go out to lunch or like go on vacation. But yes, to double down on it, I completely agree with you. Managers, sales reps, SDRs, blah, blah, blah. Just do what you got to do or shut up. It's my opinion.
Okay, well, the next myth of today is the
Keenan
best way.
Unamped now. He looks unamped. Go ahead. What's your next myth?
All right. Well, the next myth is the best way to win over a buyer is to offer a discount. Becc, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, everywhere. It's not. It broadcasts your buyer that you aren't in control. You realize you're not in control. You've added no value. You realize you've added no value. And the only thing that you think that you can toy with to get them to want to buy more, to build credibility with them, is to lower the price. And it does the exact opposite. Keenan?
I almost don't want to give that any credence. The best way to win over your buyer? I don't even know where to go with that. I just printed out, and I think it stopped because I need to put in more paper. And I was going to do it right now, but I held it. That's my OCD. Anyways, we finished our
report.
A report. Well, the survey. The report's going to take a while. A lot of cross-tabbing, a lot of blah, blah, blah. But over 1,200 people surveyed. So it is beyond statistically accurate, right? And I think 68% of people paid at least 10% or more than they budgeted when it was worth it. So no, it's not about giving your buyer a discount. The best way to win over your customer is the ability to provide them something that they believe will quickly and effectively and substantially deliver a new outcome and alleviate the shit show that they're in now. Like, that's the best way to win over a buyer. Again, we are killing this metaphor of a doctor. But do you want to win over a buyer? Dr. A says you got brain cancer, you're going to die in 6 months, and he might extend it to a year. Dr. B says, oh, I can fucking fix this. I'll have you, we can clear this through. I'm not going to take the doctors to, hey, that other doctor's only going to charge me, $100,000. You're going to charge me $3 million. I'm going to go with him. Are you fucking high? Think through that. Literally think through that, people. That what's going to endear you to a buyer is this person is going to save my life. And the problem I have now is going to disappear. I don't care if it's going to cost me 10x. This problem is going to solve my problem, but only by this much. They're going to get me an extra 6 months for $100K. Fuck you. I'll take the rest of my life for 10 million. Alex, it's just dumb. It's just dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Becc, any closing thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, reps all the time say, well, they didn't have buyer intent. And I'm like, it's because you didn't find a problem that's worth having buyer intent for. It's like, when you break it down to medicine, it's like you're trying to sell them cancer medication and you don't, and they don't even know if they have cancer.
Sinead O'Connor just died.
Who's that? Is that a boxer?
No.
Is that a...
Wait, who died?
Sinead O'Connor. She was a singer in the late 80s, early 90s. She sang Nothing Compares to You. She was bald.
What does that song go like?
I can't sing, so I'm not even going to try. Nope. So
I don't-
anyways, it was a huge hit in 1989-90. Huge hit. Nothing Compares to You. Anyways, she died. What bothers me about it, though, is one, she was a pop culture when I was younger, but two, she's only a year older than me. I'm getting freaked out when people my age are just falling off. I'm like, hey, cut it out. Cut it out. I'm not ready for this. Cheers.
Oh, scary, scary, scary.
I
Oh my goodness.
have had to dial up how loudly I talk with Keenan recently, I've noticed. Hi, Keenan!
Can you hear me?
It's late. I'm surprised you haven't had dinner. It's 4:00.
Oh, I just had dinner. I'm going to bed right after this.
Okay, well, with that, we are going on to the next segment of this podcast, which is
Take it or leave it.
this is the segment where I introduce common sales tactics and Becc and Keenan let us know whether they would take it or leave it. And the first one of today is customizing your packaged product offering per client. Becc, take it or leave it.
I'm going to go take it. It's exhausting, but I'm going to go take it. Because they have custom problems. So your product offering should reflect that. Now, from the business perspective, it's not always necessarily scalable, but I'm going to take it.
All right, Keenan, what about you? Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it 1,000%, but I'm going to take this down to a whole nother level. Take it in that if you are going to customize which features and functions you're going to sell them, or, like if there are moving parts that you can add and take out, it's a take it. But also, if you sell the same thing to everybody, marketing pay attention to this and salespeople pay attention to this. If you sell something that isn't compartmental, in other words, you don't buy this, it is what it is. You get it, right? You still customize the recommendation of why they should buy it.
Yeah, of course.
So even if it's look, I'm selling this water. I can't sell you 3 of these. It's just, this is it. This is all I got. But I'm going to customize my recommendation on why you should buy it. So I'm going to sell it to you, and I'm going to say, this is why you should buy it. For these reasons, based on my discovery and understanding of your current state, here's why you should. It's a custom recommendation. And Becc, your customer recommendation is going to be different because each of you have a different reason why you need the water. So it's not just a customization of the actual physical product or service you're offering, but it's also a customization in the recommendation phase, which people call proposal, but I call recommendation, on why you should buy it and why it'll solve it.
All right, the next one for today is optimizing cold emails for word counts. Let's go with Becc again. Take it or leave it, Becc.
I'm going to take it lightly. I think brevity is tough, but it's key. Usually you talk a lot when you don't have that level of expertise, but I don't think that it is, I don't think you can optimize for it in isolation, meaning the more relevant that you are, the more credibility and time you earn on the clock to talk with the prospect. So I think it's the most paid attention to. I've noticed like conversation intelligence platforms, for instance, the number one thing that they talk to reps about is like talk time. And I'm like, yes, I guess it's a good correlation metric, but there are a lot of other, it's like, what are you saying in those actual words? So I'll take it barely.
Keenan, what about you? Take it or leave it.
What was it again?
Optimizing.
Focusing on word count in your email.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to say yes. I can get behind that. Why is it at 4:06? Has it only been a minute for real?
No, it like switched. It went from sales mythology, and then all of a sudden it was take it or leave it. I was like, we got 10 minutes for take it or leave it. Keane's gonna love this.
Yeah,
Oh my
so we really
goodness.
only have a minute left, but that's okay. So my answer is take it. Yes, to everything that Becc said, but I'm going to tweak it a little, okay? And where I'm going to tweak it is, yes, focus it on brevity and impact. Don't get caught up in if it's, it's 100 words with 125. Like, don't overthink that. Don't make it a fucking novel, 400 words, right? So that's one. But two, what I don't think people do well enough is also how you structure it to appear brief. So I'm a huge fan of bullets. So even if it goes to 200, I'm going to have a sentence, new paragraph, sentence, new, like I'm only have two, my paragraphs are rarely more than 2 sentences. Then I'm going to go into bullets. So I'm like 5 or 6 bullets, then maybe one closing, and then so even if it could be more than most people are used to, the way I structure the email, it appears brief and people can zero in on things and find them very quickly. The bullets will almost always be the most important part of the email, and you can't miss it.
All right, and the next
I almost
one.
impressed Becc right there. You should have seen her eyes. She's like, "Whoa!" Keenan said something.
Keenan said something.
He was talking about the aesthetic of an email.
It matters.
All right. Well, the last one for today is visiting prospective customers on site. Keenan, take it or leave it.
Oh, that's a take it, no problem. And now be careful how I say this. It's a take it in that if that's what works for the customer, then go see the customer. So to me, this is not a binary thing. It's not like, oh, you should never see a customer. You should always see it. No. That is not. No. The way I'm interpreting this question is, should you do it? And absolutely, if the customer prefers it, if your industry prefers it, if it is more advantageous to your sales process and sales cycle, of course. Of course. Should it be mandatory? Should that be the only way to sell? No, you're smoking crack. I don't think I've visited a customer and I've sold $250,000 up to almost $500,000 deals without ever meeting the person in person, people in person, right? But if that's what was needed and it was important to a buyer, fuck yeah, I'd go do it, right? So yes, the answer is it's the buyer.
Becc, what about you? Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I have mirrored thoughts to Keenan. I will take it if it's how the buyer wants to buy, but given the last couple of years, it's not how the buyer really wants to buy anymore.
Amen.
So I think salespeople like to do it because they're like, I'm a people person. I'm like, Brendan, that's great. But here's the thing. Your prospects probably aren't. Like when someone wants an on-site with me, I'm like, you just want to get in front of me so you can manipulate me more. And you want to take my time to do it. Like, I don't want to have to welcome you to the building. I don't want to name the puppy.
Yeah.
So I'm about to give the puppy away. So I think it's usually a manipulative tactic that sellers use, that they're like, I want to go bond with them or have beers with them or go out and party with them and blah, blah, blah. So it makes them harder to say no. So I'd say if it's how the buyer wants to buy, and like enterprise deals with committees, a lot of times it can be advantageous. But other than that, I would say a hard leave it. That's it. Say 2.
And we got 5 minutes for we got 2 minutes for a 5-minute gig, I think.
Wait, what? I know.
2 minutes for a 5-minute gig.
It's like your dream.
Take it or leave it went to 10 minutes.
I apologize. I see it at 0. I apologize if there's a little bit of technical difficulties on my side. By the way, I am halfway across the world in a little box. So if there's a little bit of internet problems.
It's your favorite part, Keenan.
I'm sorry?
Is your dream come true? It's your favorite part.
I dream much bigger than that, Becc. I dream much bigger.
I think Keenan logged in and changed it, and he's like, I don't know why. Take it or leave it. It's 10 minutes. Sales mythology has been deleted, and take it or leave it is like 25 minutes.
There's a lot of inside running jokes in this whole little freaking conversation.
Well, hey, with that, we're on to my favorite segment of the podcast, which is
the inbox.
This is the segment where Keenan and Becc answer questions from our audience. This week we do not have the help of our trusty paid actor, the mailbox, but I will try my best to work in it. Steve, this first one is from Adam Bawani from Zoom.
Oh,
He
snap.
asks, oh yeah, he asks, what advice do you have for AEs trying to plan their careers? Does it make sense to work at different tech companies to acquire skills, or is there still value in being in the same company for, let's say, 10 years? Keenan, what are your thoughts on this one?
Wow. I think we had one similar to this not too long ago. And I don't know I don't care what the rest of the world thinks in this regard. I think what's his name? Bawani? Is that his last name?
His name is Adam Bawani.
I like Bawani's way better, dude. You got to go by Bawani. Get rid of Adam. This is Bawani. That is legit. Okay, Adam Bawani. Someone in here tag Adam Bawani in the comments so he can come and hear this and know I talked about it. I think that's the wrong question. Where you work, in my opinion, from a skills perspective, only matters to the extent that they commit to their employees and provide an employee development and growth environment. And my experience has been, with very few exceptions, companies don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So the major companies like Google might and GE still might, and I don't know, but not many, and Xerox still might for all I know, but generally speaking, there aren't many companies anymore, particularly medium to small size, who actually build these systems in place to develop and build people. So when they come out of that, back in the day, even beyond me, like people older than me did this. I wasn't even old enough for this. If you came out of Xerox, people knew you went through Xerox method of selling, and they knew you knew your shit. If you came out of IBM, they were like, oh, you went through the IBM selling method, and you know your shit. But outside of that, it doesn't exist. So ask yourself, should I stay at one company for 10 years or bounce around to get experience? The experience selling is not influenced by how many different places you sell. Sales is sales. The best place to get experience and develop your career is where you are. What are you doing to recognize your own inefficiencies, your own lack of skill, and what are you doing to build upon that, and how are you leveraging the resources at that organization to help you at your behest, at your lead? So the only thing I would say is, if you're trying to develop and grow and you reach out to management and you reach out to them for support and they don't give it to you, then go somewhere else. But outside of that, it doesn't really freaking matter where you work or how long, 10 years, 3 years. The job is not giving you the experience. And by the way, I'll end it with this, Becc. You want expertise, not experience. And expertise can be developed in one place for 10 years or five places in 10 years. Sorry, Becc, I took too much time. No,
it's okay. Done it twice. It's okay.
Shade thrown out here.
I'm just not. That's not who I am.
You only have one arm. You only have one arm right now. So
my mouth is far more sharp. My mouth is far more sharp than two of my arms.
I'm being sassy. I'm sorry, Keenan.
That's okay.
My thought is it's harder to climb the ladder at one company, but it's harder long term if you don't, because usually climbing internally, you have to prove it on results. You don't go from SDR to AE without proving yourself first, and AE to senior AE, proving it first, and then AE to AE leader without proving it first. So that's why it's harder, and I see people jump. The danger of jumping from gig to gig to gig to gig to gig to gig is, I never feel like there are a lot of people out there that I look at the resumes and it's like they're professional onboarders. It's like they go from company to company to company to company to company. And I'm like, and they have an excuse, and maybe a valid one, for why each company is wrong or did them wrong or didn't, coach them or whatever. But I feel like you never actually get expertise anywhere when you do that. So my recommendation would be two things. And this is without talking to Adam. But number one, focus on building the expertise of selling, which is knowing your buyer. And number two, SMB companies can be really great places to learn a lot by trial. That's called expertise, man. and experience. Like, I might look dumb, I might play dumb, but I'm not dumb.
Hey, on a quick housekeeping note, Min, are all our episodes up to date on Spotify and Apple Music?
They should be up to episode 35 as of right now. 34, I apologize.
Okay,
34.
so I have somebody, James Fox says, where can I listen to the episodes beyond June 22nd? That's a month late. Are we really running a month late?
YouTube. Go to YouTube. If you go to Flip This Script on YouTube or Gap Selling on YouTube, they're loaded there really regularly. We're up to 30.
Also, I will, after the podcast, I will make sure everything's all good. Like sometimes when I upload the podcast, it takes a little bit to upload. Or some people sometimes see it when it's completely uploaded on my side. Some people don't see it, so I have to really look at.
Only number 32 on Spotify. So
who asked that? By the way, who asked that?
Jamie Fox. He's a huge fan.
Good job, Jamie.
No,
Fox.
James Fox.
James
Fox. James Fox.
I was about to say, Jamie Fox.
We're faster about YouTube, with video, because I like to watch myself,
I listen while working out, so YouTube isn't ideal. Yes, Min is now under the instruction that we don't go a week anymore without getting him up. Aren't you now, Min?
So, to be fair to Min, he's been in APAC since episode 32. Just putting facts out there.
But also, I posted him up after every single podcast, so I'll make sure to look over and make sure it's all good. Sorry, Jamie.
Yeah, James.
James, sorry. Sorry, James, you can't see them. I'll make sure they're on tonight.
All right.
4 a.m. right now. But
yeah.
Either way, Becc, would you like to complete your thought, or would you like to go on to the next segment?
No, next segment. I want to play by the rules. I'm a rule abider.
Oh my God. It's just getting so thick in here right now. I don't even know what to do with myself.
It's so
thick. I'm a rule abider. Oh my goodness.
I'm sweet and I'm just a rule abider. Whatever Keenan says is good with me.
James, that's okay. I'm the king of throwing people under. Back to accountability. James says, totally didn't mean to throw anybody under the bus. I'm the king of that.
Okay.
Accountability.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, with that, we're on to
fridge. James watched our podcast. He's on the reg. He's like, "Where's 33 and 34?"
He's like, "Let's go. It's about user experience.
Let's go.
We don't mess with user experience. We want people coming back."
Love that.
100%. Well, okay. Well, with that, we're on to the next segment of this podcast, which is
the challenge.
This is the segment where Becc and Keenan break down a challenging subject within the sales industry. And the challenge for today is how to find customers that don't have the pain yet, aka how to find customers that will have an impact before they incur it to have their back. All right, Becc, let's start with you on this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think to sum up one of the biggest problems in sales, you need to know things that your buyer doesn't know. So that's what's going to create buyer intent beyond what they have right now. So if the problem was big enough, and I'm counting problem as current pain plus impact, like that's the size of the problem, essentially the size of the gap, so to speak.
Hold on, sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have all kinds of technical issues. It just jumped back to the inbox, and now we're down to 4.5 minutes.
Hold up. Let me check it again. I just changed it again. What in the world? So I apologize, by the way. This software is kind of glitching out on me right now. I'm not even sure if I'm live right now. But keep going, Becc. Can you?
Are we live? What if I just started saying disgusting things right now?
Oh God.
No, we're still live. I'm watching. We're still live. Okay, now you're back on the challenge. Everything should be good. All right, Becc, start again or go over whatever. Sorry.
You need to find things that your buyer doesn't know about. So if your buyer had a problem that was big enough, they would have come inbound, right? And they would have had buyer intent according to the size of the problem that they know currently. So let's imagine, and the problem is equal to the buyer's perspective of the problem, right? So let's say that they imagine in their head, they think that the size of the problem is the state of Texas. Big problem, right? It's a big state. However, there are also 49 other states in the US. So it's like the first step to that is figuring out what do they think the self-diagnosis is. So you know that they think that it's just the size of Texas. The second step is diagnosing what you think the problem is, the size of it. So you need to diagnose and figure out what are all the impacts that they don't know about that do exist. And then when you add those into the current size of the perspective of the problem, all of a sudden you've created buyer intent because they weren't willing to do something about the problem when it was the size of the state of Texas. That's why they didn't inbound. Once they know that it's a bigger size, they're going to inbound at large. So I think the importance, I'm going to just start with the importance of finding impacts that they don't know about. And the motion of outbound is predicated on your ability to find impacts that are going to happen to someone that they didn't know about. They didn't have buyer intent before, but when you find an impact that they didn't know was coming, all of a sudden you're going to create buyer intent on the spot. So I'm going to lead with that. That is importance and kick it to Keenan. No, you're not frozen, Keenan.
No, I know I'm not frozen. I'm looking at something, trying to prepare. Okay. Finding the problem. I think the first thing that salespeople understand is they don't even really know what problem they're looking for in the first place. And there's too much of their time is spent trying to get the buyer to self-diagnose. Okay. So if you really want to get good at helping a buyer find a problem they didn't have, you have to be intimately, and I mean intimately familiar with two things. And the intersection of these two things. I don't even want to almost say it in a Venn diagram. I almost want to think like the old school cellophane body, like as you peel back the things, you take the skin layer off and then the organs and the muscles and all that, right? So you need to understand your product and service and how it impacts the problems and root causes that an organization you sell to has. You have to understand both of those intimately, unbelievably intimately. And if you do not understand those intimately, it is very difficult to find a problem. Okay. So I'm not quite sure how to do this without we do this almost every episode. Not only do people love it, they're getting tired of it, but the whole doctor thing, right? An oncologist, which one of the reasons doctors specialize, because they begin to have so much knowledge in a particular area that it allows them to go far deeper than a generalist, right? So whether it's oncology or it's orthopedics, like I just had my shoulder done, I called the friend, the father of one of the kids on my kid's soccer team, and he's an ankle guy. And I was like, hey, I think I did something to my shoulder. He goes, well, let me introduce you to our shoulder guy. Mm-hmm. All he does is shoulders. Why? Because he knows, in this case it is he knows exactly what questions to ask me. He knows exactly what positions to put my arm in. He knows exactly what to do to assess where I am now. And then he has the ability, the understanding of the different procedures, whether it be just physical therapy, whether it be orthoscopic, whether it means replacement. He understands all of the options, i.e. your products, and he's able to map those two beautifully. So if you don't understand what you're looking for in the first place, you can't find a problem you didn't know they had. And so the only way I'll wrap this up with this piece and throw it back to you, Becc, is when I went to there was no trauma in my shoulder. I didn't wipe out. I didn't fall down the stairs. Like there was no trauma. Just all of a sudden for about 2-week period when I'd be on my phone or I'd sleep at night, it hurt and it kept me from sleeping and I can't describe it. It got painful. And I was like, all right, what the frick's going on? Oh, and I started going to the gym and I couldn't do certain exercises. That was it. So after 2 weeks, I'm like, screw it. I'm going to go to the doctor, right? And I said, does it hurt that bad? It's just kind of messed my ability to lift weights and sleep at night. And he moves it a couple ways and he touches it a couple places. I'm like, oh, right there. Yeah. He knew right where to touch. He does an MRI. He says, dog, you've torn it in 3 places. I can't remember the actual Latin names of these things. And he's like, so you need surgery. And I'm like, okay, can I wait? Because it doesn't hurt bad enough. I can still ski. I can do everything I want except lift weights. And the pain started going away. I don't know why, but the pain started going away. So I said to him, can I wait? Sure. So I waited 2.5 months so I could finish the ski season, go to Cape Cod, blah, and live my life because it's a 6-month recovery. So I come back and it doesn't hurt anymore. I'm not working out, but outside that, it doesn't hurt. I can do push-ups. I can do anything I want. So I said to him, I'm not sure I still want to do the surgery because you're 6 months. It doesn't hurt. I think I'm fine. He says, quote unquote, you don't have to, but it's only going to get worse. over time. The muscle in the tail will grow and it'll start to atrophy and move further away. And at some point, I won't be able to fix it, or I'll have to fix it in a way that you don't get maximum range. He goes, you're only 55. You're super active. You're not a typical 55. It will haunt you down the end of the road. And so it's worth the 6 months. So why did I tell you all this? I didn't think I had a problem when the pain went away. But he said you do. Because it's going to get worse. So sitting where we are right now, maybe not, but in a year, 2, 3 years, you're fucked, and then I can't fix it. So I said, all right, put me under. Okay, so yes, that's my point.
So he found, in doing that, he found an impact that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
Like, if you kept going, that you're going to have irreversible damage, that even if you address it then you wouldn't have full motion, even if you address it just how you were doing it today. So I think it kind of to the point of people will say, well, okay, that's great, but how do we find those impacts? And then how do we find people who are going to run into those impacts? And I think about a lot for medicines. They don't advertise of like, do you have cancer? They advertise leading indicator current items. They're like, are you 55, weigh, this amount and don't drink X amount of water? And they're advertising very smartly, because they're like, the person doesn't know if they have this ailment. What they do know, though, is how old are they, and the answers to these questions. So I'll give you an example, and then I'm going to pass back to you, Keenan, to close out. I remember I talked about a number of months back ago about how there was a lot of water in my tub. And then it all of a sudden rose to a really high level, but I didn't solve for it because it wasn't overflowing the tub. So I just sped up my showers. So you could say like, okay, well, how could I find basically the conditions that would how could I find you, Becc? Because you hadn't come inbound to a plumber, already. So I'm like, well, think about the conditions that would cause someone to be in that condition. The building was built in 1920, for instance. None of the plumbing had been updated, for instance. So it's like, just start searching for buildings that are based in the Bay Area that are on an incline, that were built in 1920 or before 1940 or whatever. And all of a sudden you're going to find prime candidates for people that probably have, to Keenan's point, a little bit of pain now, maybe not any at all, but there's an impact coming, like, hey, have you, and the question that you ask is, have you had your pipes replaced, in the last, 10 years? And if they're like, no, you're like, so you're fine for now, but based on how old your building is and the fact that you haven't had your pipes replaced, if you continue to go on like this, it's probably going to be in the realm of 2 to 5 years of a pipe's going to burst, could flood your entire apartment, several units on the other side, which would take you out of commission for restoring it for 2 to 4 months, which could cause X amount of churn and blah, blah, blah. And then you have created a buyer intent because they didn't know that an impact was coming. So I would start looking for those leading indicators, or what are the things that would cause a situation, an SMB company that has, 40% team growth and hasn't hired any sales enablement, doesn't have a sales trainer on staff, is a great instance. But I would start to look for leading indicators that would cause a problem typically to happen with someone before they knew that it was going to happen to them. Keenan, what do you got?
No, I agree. There's nothing really to add. I mean, the bottom line is, I'll go back to the Venn diagram thing. You have to understand and know what you solve for and what problems your customers have, period.
Great timing. Amazing timing. Well, with that, we are on to the last segment of this podcast, which is...
Oh, listen, just one more thing.
This is the segment where Becc and Keenan give us their closing thoughts. So with that, we'll start with Keenan. Keenan, what is your just one more thing?
What I'd like to talk about today is I'd like to see sales organization enablement. This is a message for enablement. I'd like to see enablement either do it or do a better job and dedicate more time to educating the sales team on the problems, impacts, KPIs, and environments at which their salespeople and their SDRs and BDRs are selling. There just isn't enough education, support, materials, etc., around that space. And just to be a little more clear, I've seen some attempts, things like, here's the CIO and what's important to him. And it's this high level shit that really doesn't attach to what your product does, right? So they create these personas, but they're so high level. I want you to be very specific about so if let's say you're talking about a CISO, what is important to a CISO? How does, and speak to cybersecurity, speak to the different systems they have in place, speak to how those systems are set up, speak to the problems that certain, what's what I'm looking for, prevalent architectures have. Like, we got to elevate the game of all of our salespeople, and we got to educate them, hire smarter salespeople. I think we got to move away from hiring for the grind and hire for the brain, right? And teach these people what's going on in these organizations so they can be like the first level, like a PA, not even like a PA, like sometimes nurses, they do the front end discovery to figure out, okay, this goes here and that goes here and this goes here, because they know enough, right? We need to start creating that and build enablement that starts with the buyer's world first. Let's describe to you the buyer's world. Let's describe to you the things that affect them. Let's describe the KPIs. Let's teach you so you understand what's happening in their world. Then we'll show you how our product fits in, addresses, handles, etc. Not enough of that. I'd like to see more of that.
All right, Becc, what about you? What is your just one more thing?
An equip, and then I'm going to give a short story. Keenan's going to love this. People don't buy from people they like. They end up liking usually people they can trust. So the story is, essentially the punchline is, I went back to San Francisco and I was like, sorry, San Franciscans. I was like, this sucks. Why am I here? So I called my landlord, cut my lease, and I'm like, my dad convinced me basically to move all my stuff into storage before I could come back and set up a U.S. headquarters. I'm probably going to set up in New York beginning of next year. He hired a moving company. I said, as long as you're over it, it's great. He hired a moving company, and TLDR, I got caught in a scam. Picked up all my stuff. We had matched furniture 1 for 1, and they picked it up and tripled the price overnight with no additional furniture. They came in at $15,000, and they have my furniture at that point. So what can I do?
It's ransom. This is not uncommon, by the way. I've read about this. It's like a scam. Unbelievable. And then I go back through and read some articles, and I'm like, yeah, we definitely got caught in a scam. So I'm like, what do we do? And I'm like panicked at this point because I have several paintings from my grandmother that are irreplaceable. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to pay $15,000 when they came in, basically? And they had asked for a bunch of money up front, which I didn't know. Point being, I had randomly mentioned online, and in enters a guy named Milo. He was making a comment on one of my threads, and I was like, oh, I'm actually moving right now. I got caught in this, blah, blah. All of a sudden, he DMs me. He's like, hey, if you want some help, let me know. Gets on the phone with my dad, does a deep dive, asks for several documents, some of the videos, and basically piece by piece tears through and proves that they had overcharged me by close to $8,000. So that we could go back to the company and say, based on this cubic feet and this measurement of the truck and this blah, blah, blah. And he was like, just send me over all the documents. We go back to the company. Not only does that, then he said, hey, so if they won't budge on pricing, which they did, keep in mind, they came all the way down to that 8,000 point, piece by piece by piece, once they saw that we had evidence, which I still don't want to give them another dollar, right? Because I'm like, you're an asshole. Like, you are taking advantage of me. And the amount of unrest that puts with someone, specifically with their stuff, was just huge. It was terrible. Point being, he was like, I've got another mover for you. If hypothetically you want this mover. Helped with the transition, got us a discount with that person as like a family favor, put their sterling crew on it, and got me out of a mess. Okay. Did I know anything about Milo beforehand? No. Do I like him now? Yes.
My whole family is saying like, well, Milo says, and the trust.
It doesn't hurt that his name is Milo. If it was John or Brendan, it'd be a little different, but Milo helped.
He built it overnight, and he did this with all of this work with nothing in it for him. He's building a CRM basically for movers, nothing in it for him, just to help me out. And the amount of trust and credibility that he built instantly with his expertise. But like, if you were to ask my brain, do you like Milo? Does my family like Milo? The answer is yes now. Why? We could trust him. Why? His credibility and his expertise that he inserted on a dime. So first piece is watch out who you move with. Second piece is if you're optimizing, if Milo had come in and said like a bunch of compliments or something, I'd have been like, who's this dude? And I would have moved on, right? When you optimize for adding that expertise, your buyer can trust you. Your buyer all of a sudden can trust you and they can start to open up to you. Point being, that's where you need to be focused is how do you take people like me at scale out of the terrible situations that they're in by having the expertise to back it up first. That's it. Go Milo.
Go Milo.
Milo says.
Venus D.
Huh?
Venus D.
Milo Millivan.
Venus D.
What's Venus?
Spell it out.
Venus D.
Hey.
Say it. Let's say his name now.
Huh?
Say his name now. Venus D.
Milo.
Venus de Milo.
What does that mean?
It's a famous sculpture. The Venus de Milo.
Oh, really?
It's the lady with it's the statue of Venus, and she's got missing an arm, and she's kind of like this, no top. Look up Venus de Milo.
It's really nice that Keenan knows that I don't have a lot of expertise in much, but he doesn't blow me up for it because I have no idea.
The Venus de Milo is an amazing sculpture. It's one of the most famous sculptures in the world.
Uh-oh.
Why do I have to be the smart one in the room? I don't get it.
You have no choice, Keenan. You have no choice.
Just, yeah. And it's funny though, most people think I'm stupid. I think I got to stop playing the I'm a dumb guy thing.
Really, really tough. Being so smart, so great and cool and
pretty.
So much fun to do it. It's really tough being you.
It's tough. I know.
Well, with that, that's our podcast.
All right, everybody. Y'all been listening to episode like 37, I guess. 36?
36.
36. This is episode 36 from Sales Top to Bottom. I'm your host, Keenan.
And James, we'll see you next week.
Peace.